morning or afternoon to those joining us out there. Delighted to host today's session. My name is Jill Bender with SafetyChain and appreciate the audience that's coming in right now. Looks like quite a few people today's session. We're very excited. We are going to be focusing our session today on how to better control material loss and improve margins. Specifically, we're going to be talking through some of the key challenges and areas in which SafetyChain can help. I'm very excited about today's session because it is our first public session in regards to a recent acquisition that SafetyChain Software made over the summer of Vigilistics, and this is one of their solution sets on material loss management, and we're very excited to dive in today and sort of share the key areas and how customers are utilizing this system to achieve results. Before we get started, always a few housekeeping tips. If you are logged into the WebEx platform, any technical issues, go ahead and you can contact WebEx direct. If you are looking for a recording or links to the slides, we will be sending those out. Typically within the same day or the next business day, we do send these out. We look forward to answering a few questions at the end of the session. So if you have any that come in, go ahead and put them into the Q&A tab, and we will get to a few of those questions as we get through this. And then lastly, and I always like to mention this, is we do take privacy very seriously, so you should be able to see the panelists online, but I'm delighted by the numbers of people that are joining us for today's session, and we look forward to an interactive session. So with that, a delight to get going. I might have been remiss in introducing myself. I'm Jill Bender with SafetyChain Software. Also delighted to have Clara Gavriliuc on the line with us today as well. She is our VP of Data Analytics with SafetyChain and came over from Vigilistics. Good morning, Clara.
Good morning, everybody.
And we will just go ahead and get started. So the goal again for today's session is we're just going to explore a little bit about the challenges of tracking material loss and the processes typically deployed in trying to track that, and how our solution fulfills that gap. We'll do a little bit of a demo. We're very excited about that, and Clara, thank you for stepping up and doing that demo with us today. We'll take a quick look at a case study and answer any questions. So again, the goal is to keep this short and succinct and hopefully informative for everyone that is on board here. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Clara, please talk to us about some of the challenges that the industry is facing in tracking material loss.
Great. So basically, with the material loss during our production, it's very important to know where you are effective and where you can optimize. So there's some pieces of the puzzle that basically we hear from our customers that are very important to them to be able to manage it better, all the way from receiving through the loadout, through doing the production. It's very important to track all the material, look at the quality of the material that's coming through, looking also at the efficiency of the equipment, and how do you optimize all that process across the individual areas of your production, looking at the waste reduction, and then more importantly, looking at the root cause. Where are the problems? How do we solve them? What's causing the loss of the material and how we can optimize that?
Well, there's certainly a lot of different data points that are essential in this process, it seems like. But when you talk about challenges, you always talk about what the bigger challenge is. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Sure. As I mentioned, it's so important to track across all the operational silos within a production line. So we get data all the way from receiving. For example, a truck comes, a supplier comes into the plant, into the operation plant, and we basically look at that data that's coming through from a truck or from any kind of a supplier. We do an acceptance testing, right? We want to make sure the quality of that product is good and it's meeting the standards. And then we go through the individual areas of the processing line, all the way to loadout and shipping. And with Vigilistics or SafetyChain right now, you can also incorporate all of that data with the cleaning, sanitization, which is going to be another session later on. But more importantly, as you know, all this data is locked into different silos, into different systems. Some of them are homegrown systems that are built by the individual operations, or their integrations. And those are all very, very expensive. You can integrate with ERP system, batching systems, other systems, homegrown, as I mentioned. And it's always so costly. You do the integration, it costs money to program, it takes time to integrate all of those areas. In most cases, there are still manual processes involved. And where we come in, we replace all of that red that you see there where the problem is, because all of that data is locked in different silos. And we provide the one plug-in solution that's going to track all the material from the beginning to the end, and looking at the loss, not only overall, but to the individual silos, to make sure that we can provide visibility into that data and provide the knowledge that you need to make the right decisions. And it starts all the way from the operations, and we roll it up to the plant manager and all the way to the headquarters as needed. So that's how we basically solve that problem.
With that problem, and it's interesting too, and we talk about this quite a bit, obviously, with what the overall, the other, from a SafetyChain Solutions standpoint, the lack of data and visibility at the corporate or plant or even operational level, really, it's sort of the overall theme, isn't it, as far as the challenge with anything that you're trying to do within your operations. So from a material loss, it goes in line, certainly. So what would you say then, as far as sort of what the key areas are to overcoming these challenges?
Right. So as I mentioned, the first thing is providing that visibility across all your operations. Visibility of the right data, not only data. We collect so much data, and with our solution, we integrate with PLCs. We collect data directly, automated data from the equipment, but we want to make sure that we provide the right data to make the right decisions across, from receiving all the way to the loadout. And more importantly, as I mentioned, it's all real-time data. So we are collecting it real-time, we are reporting it real-time, and then we provide analytics against the benchmarks. What's your goal? Where are you supposed to be? Are you, it's your goal to be basically within 1 to 2% of material loss, and how are you doing against that? So we want to make sure that not only we efficiently capture the data and extract it from the equipment, but also we can aggregate that data, provide the knowledge that you need to know exactly where the problems are, where the exceptions are, and empower you to take the right action.
Well, and I think it's interesting, certainly the one part about, and you and I have talked about this in the past, is the access to the right data, right? I mean, it's one thing to have lots of data everywhere, but if it's not the data in the way that you need it to make an impact, then it's just data, right? So
exactly.
So I guess that sort of takes us on. You touched on this already a little bit, but again, sort of, when you think about the industry in general, tracking material loss certainly is not a new thing. I know that that's a mantra and often part of KPIs in trying to improve upon that. But if you wouldn't mind just sort of taking us through as far as the general approaches out there and what the challenges of each of those based on what's out there right now.
Right, Jill. So what we hear a lot from our customers is that they struggle a lot with big integrations, big ERP systems, and they do not solve all their problems. Those are great for specific purposes. They basically are a resource planning software. That's what ERP processes are. They integrate businesses and individual resources, but they do not provide the overall operational value that the plants need, that they need to be able to make the right decisions. And we heard about ERP integrations. They take time, they're expensive, they don't solve all the problems. There are batching systems that they use definitely to track some of the recipes, but they are recipe driven. They are not focused on necessarily yield and loss analysis. And then, as I mentioned before, there are the manual homegrown silo processes that they are trying to integrate with the bigger systems or replace at this point, because there's pretty old out there in the market, and they're not efficient. And definitely when you start doing the manual data entry to complement the missing pieces, you're open to errors, obviously. So what we want to make sure is that we provide a solution that's automated, that's easy to use, that's efficient, and it's focusing on the right problem. It's focusing on the material loss and how we can minimize the loss and optimize our processes so we can impact the bottom line.
No, thank you for that, Clara. You know, what's interesting, I just came back from one of the annual conferences for one of the GFSI schemes, SQF, this past week, and there was a lot of talk about data, manual processes, and many people who have access, data-rich, data everywhere, but don't have the time or ability to actually do something meaningful with it. So it's right in line here when you're talking about, you know, really all three areas, right? There's lots of data, but having a meaningful impact with that is key, it sounds like.
Exactly.
So with that, you know, and again, the purpose of this session was to really just sort of dive in and give an introduction to those who are with us today. What can be achieved? You know, we talked about specific areas that are the challenges and gaps and how to fulfill those gaps. And I'm really excited, again, when we say here, powered by Vigilistics on this slide, to introduce SafetyChain Material Pro, which was through our acquisition of Vigilistics this past summer, and how that solution is enabling companies, customers, to more effectively track material throughout the plant. A few of the key things that Clara already went through, but I'll just go ahead and reiterate, is, again, it really is a complete material loss tracking and analysis system, from receiving all the way through loadout and all the different components in between. You know, receiving is a big component as far as tracking the performance, whether it's by carrier, load, bay, and operator. We'll take a look at that and quickly through the demo. I think the integrated view of the quality test. So again, this concept of data everywhere, but having it in one succinct view that is the right impact that you need. And then most importantly is that real-time data, breaking through that barriers of different proprietary systems or data everywhere and getting that in real time. So with that, again, I'm very excited to actually show those today, just a little snippet of the solution itself. Claire, I'm going to go ahead and pass the WebEx ball over to you, as we say in our webinar language. And why don't you just sort of take us through a little bit, you know, what you talked about from a demo. Again, the goal here, everyone, is not to really do an in-depth demo, just enough to be dangerous. And then certainly if people would like to see more specifics, we could always schedule that thereafter. So, Claire, looks like we have your screen up, and just for the viewers out there, if you want to see this in full screen in the WebEx platform, there's little two arrows going diagonally in the right hand. You can make that into a larger screen, but it's all yours, Clara. Thank you.
Sure. So this is the application that we use to actually monitor the automated data that's coming through, and it's when I mean automated, basically it can integrate with the scale, we can integrate with flow meters, we can integrate with any equipment that you use at your plant, and we monitor the receiving activities of the ingredients into the plant all the way to the loadout. So for purposes of this demo, I'm just going to go through the receiving and a little bit of inventory, but all of them, all the areas work the same. And it's a very rich application, so just going to touch on a couple of things so it gives you a feel for the information you're going to receive. As I mentioned, we are basically looking at a lot of data, so I want to make sure that you basically see that we provide a workflow in such a way that it's very easy to track everything that's coming in and the important steps, and be able to track the material loss during the individual ones. We provide dashboards, and also we focus on exceptions. As you can see in here, if something is red, immediately in a dashboard format, you can see that something it's not passing inspections, for example, the lab test, or something in the receiving overall failed, or the CIP, what we call the sanitization of the trucks maybe are not completed yet. So those kind of things are very easy to track and monitor. Now, we start from the receiving as we provide the flow of the product, and it's basically all in one system. So you can schedule your loads as they are coming in. We do a lot of variance analysis. So we basically look at what was scheduled, what was received, what was declared on the ticket when the truck came in. For these purposes, I'm going to use milk, for example. This is a raw milk product that you can see in here. And so we look at the raw milk and we compare with basically the variance from the schedule to what was declared that they brought to the plant amount, which means the meter amount or the scale, whatever equipment you use to measure that. And we provide visibility into the plant, what's available, how much is available in the tank, so they know exactly, the operator knows where to put that, that milk as it comes in. We integrate with different systems, or also we provide data entry into the test results. So we have test results in here. They can add them in here, or we can integrate with the LIMS system. We then do the validation. If it is within the range, then it's accepted. If not, we'll turn red and basically can get rejected. As you know, the loads are very expensive, right? I mean, it's 50,000 maybe pounds of milk, and having those chargebacks back to the co-op or your supplier if the temperature, it's greater than 40 degrees, or if, your test results, your parameters that you're tracking, your total solids or the fat, it hasn't been, what's been requested or declared, you can go back to and charge back the supplier. The fat, for example, in the milk, it's very expensive, as we all know. If they declare it's, 4% milk fat and it's only 1%, right? Butter is very expensive, so they can definitely charge back. And when we talk about thousands of pounds of butter fat, that's a lot of money, and that is a big impact to the ROI. So when we talk about we don't talk only about the loss during the process, but we also look at how can we basically help your bottom line and improve your processes and optimizing your the quality of the product that you are receiving from the supplier, and be able to charge back to the supplier if those requirements are not met. So as we go through the individual tabs in here, I'll show you how basically easy it is to look at the individual summaries. We provide variances, and the goal usually within the milk industry is to the variance to be less than 1%. And we also, sorry about that, we also provide analysis for individual production days. As you can see, immediately, if there's a big discrepancy under what was unloaded and what went into a specific silo, so this came from the truck and this is what the level shows into the silo, we know something happened. So they just lost 3,000 pounds of milk here, and they can go very easily and look at where that milk went. It could be that by mistake they put it somewhere else, or it just ended up on the floor, and believe me, it does happen. So those kind of things are very, very important. Usually the variances are a little bit smaller, as you can see, but when they're big variances, then we definitely want to be able to track that and provide that reporting to the operation manager. So the same thing happens in the individual ones, and I wanted to quickly show you. We track the individual tanks. We can go to the individual pasteurizing tanks to get a lot of the information, individual information about every single thing that happens, temperature, butter fat, whatever parameters you are tracking within the individual equipment. And more importantly, we want to get to the point of seeing the individual loss per day, or per individual day. And you can drill down into the individual areas, as I mentioned, into the receiving area, and I can look at that day and immediately see the variance at every single equipment for every single bay, for every single load. So we provide that analysis into the individual areas. And then also wanted to show you a little bit more on the analysis. We also can do a trend analysis. So we can go from what was yesterday, 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, 120 days. So as you can see, overall, we are trying to stay within the 1% loss, and that goal obviously can be set for the individual product depending on what you're making. So more importantly, we provide dashboards that can help you drill down into the exceptions. And as I mentioned, carrier performance is one of the important things. We want to make sure that we know if something is basically late. We have different goals on the performance, making sure that we can optimize the process of the production and minimizing the loss. So the loss doesn't come only from the individual, loss of production, but also efficiencies of the process itself. So we can look at the individual carriers that are coming in and drill down and see exactly by how much they're late. Now, if a truck is late by, 6 hours, obviously it's going to impact your production. And what we provide this information is for them to be able to go and get basically chargebacks and make sure that if something is so late, they can also have the visibility into maybe calling another supplier that can provide the load a little bit earlier so they cannot, so they can actually continue their production. So we also look at the individual performances on the timing bay. We have basically a lot of our customers tell us that the truck has to come in the bay, and within 2 hours they have to get out, right? So load has to be 20 minutes, or whatever measure you have, we can provide visibility immediately into the individual performance of the truck in bay. And then the loads, if they get accepted or rejected, you get basically, again, we're focusing on just exception. So the acceptance rate, obviously, in this case for this data is 100%, which is great. More importantly, as I mentioned, it's basically looking at what was declared on the package when it came in or on the ticket and what was received. And this is very important because that variance, as we mentioned before, can go back and charge back. So all of this, if I drill down into this, I can see exactly the amount of the variance, and I can, those are all the pounds that I have to get money back for. So from that perspective, we focus a lot onto providing the data, and this is just the receiving. You can filter down by the individual performances of the receiving base. You can, as you can see, everything adjusts based on that. So there's a lot of capabilities of analyzing the data, looking at the individual problem carriers, let's say, and you can see exactly how many times they're late, by how much they give you a variance on the load. And then also you can filter, if I want to see just the month to date or the last 2 months or year to date. So obviously, you can start seeing the trend going on for the individual carriers. So going back to the application itself, wanted to show you a little bit more on the reporting. We want to make sure that we provide the receiving log, and you can get a receiving log for everything. We track the individual loads as they're coming in. And also, as I mentioned, you can integrate in the reporting with all the lab test data. So that's all very important to have one place to look for the individual quality data and also the processing of the loads as they are coming in. So going back to the individual analysis, I wanted to make sure that basically you understand that this is something that we focus a lot on the, as I mentioned, not only on the individual, the overall one, but in the individual silos, receiving inventory, ending inventory, loadout, forward package, and then being able to drill down on the individual loss variances for the individual equipment or areas, and everything is configurable. So every single area where you want to track the loss, all of that is configurable in our application. So any questions? I know this is a lot of information, but just want to make sure that I covered a little bit of the workflow and also all the integration points that we offer.
Great. Thank you, Clara, for that. And again, every time I see this, the product as you talk through it, and seen this many times with other folks going through it, the data that's available and the visibility, and then more importantly, the impact that data can have on your businesses is pretty compelling. So with that, let me go ahead and take us out of this demo mode, and we'll kind of follow up on a few use case scenarios, just to sort of look at sort of what the bottom line result will be. So let me go ahead and take back the ball, or it looks like from a host standpoint. Let me go ahead and do that. Looks like the person hosting needs to pass it back over. Thank you so much. So again, the goal of that demo really was to sort of give you just a real high-level overview, and lots of data to share as you sort of get through there. You kind of see the different components in which can be achieved from a data standpoint. But let's go ahead and just explore this. And I know in that scenario that Clara was going through, specifically to dairy, so I'm just going to go ahead and follow that theme through just to give an example. And if you look at from the dairy industry itself, the average milk loss statistically out there is between about 2 to 3%. But then if you take into account just from a U.S. standpoint, that the billion pounds, 1.4 billion pounds of milk that's per year, what a typical plant processes, you know, that equates to almost 15,000 gallons lost a day. I think when I first saw the statistic, I was like, wow, that's quite a bit. So then you look at what can be achieved, and again, it's getting that data out to be able to have impact with it. So again, one of our customers, the dairy processor, they were processing 750,000 pounds of fluid milk every day, and they were experiencing about a 2.5% material loss, which was costing about $1 million a year. No small change when it comes to what the cost of that material loss was to them. So upon implementing SafetyChain Material Pro, powered by Vigilistics, they were able to achieve the real-time reporting and analytics that Clara went through in that very quick demo. I mean, the key areas of the plant, and I think that really is, we talked earlier about the having the right data. It's the right data throughout the process. So, you know, in this case, receiving, but then following that all the way through, you know, so within the dairy processor, you know, the batching, the pasteurizing, filling, distribution, even the wastewater. But what I always find even more compelling is because of that top to bottom visibility and the access to the data from an automated extraction in real time, there is an average of 680,000 in annual savings, and really compelling, especially if you think about the cost of the system. That it pays for itself within a few months of implementation. So it's always interesting when you think about material loss, because, you know, we all know that there's different areas in which can be impacted. But if you look at it from each section and then we'll pull that all in, the return and the bottom line is quite measurable. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Clara? I know I kind of went really quickly on that scenario in the interest of time here, but anything more you want to add to that?
I just want to reiterate, like the customer that we basically looked at, and you saw that their material loss went down to the 0.8 to 0.9% of material loss every day. That's a lot of savings from, they were within the 2 to 3%. And their comments were, you know, this software helped us basically, it paid by for itself, I can talk to it, for itself within the first 2 months. And that's kind of, you know, the feedback that we hear a lot and the value proposition for the software.
Great. And again, the term big data is always out there, but I think the more important thing is what are you doing with that data? And there's lots of data being pulled in, but I always appreciate the dashboards and the reporting because that's where that data is useful, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's great. So again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep going here. There were a few questions that have come in, so I want to get to those. But again, I just wanted to sort of reiterate again, sort of pulling it all together. Really the goal of Material Pro is getting to the right approach to achieve those results, preventing that product loss and maximizing your production, reducing the waste, and all those components will add to lowering your costs and really increasing the bottom line. Just I want to take just a few minutes to sort of tie this in again with SafetyChain. I talked at the very beginning that we are absolutely delighted to have found Vigilistics and acquired them this past summer and their data-rich processing solution, specifically this one with material loss management. But just for the audience, I'll just take just a quick minute here to kind of sort of tie it all together with SafetyChain software. We are, the leaders in real-time food safety quality management. Reducing risk, controlling your costs, and ensuring compliance. As part of the acquisition, there were some solutions offerings that expanded our portfolio of what we provide out to the marketplace. We are doing a view similar to this one next Friday on SafetyChain Pro for those that have a clean and process system in place. That is, I would definitely recommend half of your time to sort of learn how to from optimization and return on investment that SafetyChain's new solution powered by Vigilistics can assist with that. I always like to mention from just an overall solution suite, again, we've been in the market for quite some time, and across the board, when you look at your operations and providing the visibility you need to make impactful change, we really do have a full suite, whether it's supplier compliance, your food safety or quality management, audit management, and then, of course, the operational effectiveness component we were just talking about with material loss and CIP. A key differential, though, and something we talk about is it's not just collecting data, it's how now you're able to impact change with that data from the way you collect it, and having the right tools, whether it's mobile data collection or integrated automated data collection, such as we just went through with your equipment or PLC, and having that exception-based reporting so that you can act upon issues as in real time and or having that trend and analysis and really the right platform to drive it all. And that's the key to SafetyChain. We're helping customers throughout the supply chain from farm to fork, we always say. I know that's a term out there, but truly from a supply chain, our systems are being used in each sector. And with that, I really wanted to sort of race through because we did have a couple questions and I wanted to get to those. But again, really the goal here was to introduce you to material loss management solution. We would love to dig in a little bit more for those interested to see how this might be able to help you. So when we log out here, you'll see a post-evaluation form, and there's a question there. If you want more information, go ahead and let us know, and we could follow up with you. We do have a couple upcoming events that we could give you a little more information. As mentioned, a week from today, we'll be talking a little bit about the Clean in Place process and understanding how much it's really costing and in making some impact in that. Also, just an overall demo of our solution offerings will take place on November 10th, and certainly lots of information on our website. With that, though, Clara, I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind staying on with us just for a few more minutes. A few questions have come in, and I want to try to get to those.
Sure.
The first question that came in was specific, and again, I've taken this out of full screen, so if anyone has questions, you could type those in. One was specific to reporting, right? So you touched on it again at a high level, sort of the reporting pieces. But if you look at that, does the system report on specific areas of loss as opposed to overall view? And I know you talked about that, but if you wouldn't mind retouching on that, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So basically, it's important to look at the 1% loss overall, but it's more important when, those exceptions are coming in and it's more than the 1% or 3%. And you want to know where the problem is coming from. So our solution basically provides that analysis within the individual area. So as I mentioned, you can get that variance analysis or loss analysis in the raw area or into the receiving area, into the processing, HTSC area, or into the filling or loadout. So you can then identify out of that 3% loss that, it's an exception, where is the majority of the loss coming from, right? So then you can dig down into the root cause and address that at the individual equipment or the individual area or whatever the problem is.
And I know we've talked about this, but certainly one of the largest challenges, right, with material loss is really that root cause analysis, right, and getting that data together.
Correct. So we provide the root cause analysis also, so we can see is it the equipment, especially that we collect the data directly from the equipment. Sometimes it's a calibration issue, right? Sometimes the meters are not calibrated, right? And basically you need to do something about it. Or something it's flowing in the wrong direction, or it's basically milk or product is kept on the lines that then they're washed down the drain instead of used in the process. So identifying the root cause in the specific area and then drilling down to the specific equipment, it's very important.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question that came in, of course, the person followed up and said, oh, whoops, looks like you've answered it, but I'll go ahead and put it out there anyways, was just in regards to how are you ensuring data accuracy? So I think this came in a little earlier on before we talked about the automation. But would you talk about that just a little bit as far as how data is collected, to ensure that data accuracy?
Right. So as mentioned, it's very important to make sure that, the data that we collect is as accurate as possible. So we collect data directly through the PLCs or the equipment. We collect data and integrate also with different LIMS systems or even homegrown systems, depending on their back end. But we definitely can make sure that the data that we collect is accurate and it's integrated, and we minimize the manual processes, and that's very important. Now, even, when we take test results and even in the titration, for example, on the different things, we want to make sure that the quality data is accurate. So when we do the root cause of the material loss, if you have to throw away some product, right, we want to make sure that you know exactly what the root cause is. So the data automation, it's key to getting, good data in, good data out, right? So garbage in, garbage out, but we want to stay on the positive stuff. So definitely the data automation, it's very important, and the accuracy of the data is also key to making sure that you're looking at the right information when you make the right decision.
Great, and I think this next follow-up question, is perfect for what you were just talking about, because certainly what you're talking about sounds like sort of a big undertaking, perhaps. So the question was, typically, what is an implementation cycle in order to get this up and running?
Sure. So it depends on what you have already implemented from the automation perspective. But typically, integrating all the systems and making sure that we collect the data accurately and report on what you are interested in, it takes about 1 to 2 months of implementation. Now, if you have a smaller system, and the automation is already in place, definitely it can be shorter. But typically, it's 1 to 2 months.
1 to 2 months. That's actually quite short period relative to when you think about what's being achieved from it. So thank you for that.
Exactly.
And it looks like that might have been the last question that has come in. So thank you. It looks really appreciate everyone's time today and joining us for the sort of high-level overview of loss management and how our solution can take you to the next step and really get the data you need out of that. I always think the compelling stories around it, as far as the return and the time to implement, that alone is interesting in itself, and understanding your business and the impact that the solution can have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. I really appreciate everyone's time today. Clara, thank you so much. I know we have you incredibly busy on many fronts, so I appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. And I look forward to talking a little bit more about the clean and pray sanitization component next Friday with you.
Sounds great.
Okay, excellent. And again, thank you everyone for your time. If you'd like any more information, customized demo and so forth, we look forward to talking to you. Happy Friday.